Now, Zoe, my Uncle Bob was in the Merchant Navy, so he sailed all over the place. But he did get to spend some time in Bali. And he taught me this dish that he learnt in Bali. It's a beef dish with shredded beef. You look like you're a little sceptical of...
I'm just not sure whether to quite believe this Uncle Bob. He's a very interesting character. He seems to travel a lot, and he does seem to live in a lot of places, Adrian.
Well, if you're in the Merchant Navy, of course you don't.
This is true.
Exactly. Now, what you start with, and this is one of Uncle Bob's big techniques, is he would get a nice piece of topside like this, which is a cut that requires a lot of cooking. So what he would do
Nice and cheap cut as well.
Nice and cheap. Yep. He would cook it in a pot of water or stock or with some spices for a good 2 hours or so. Yep. I suppose if you've got a pressure cooker, you can cook it for half that time. But see how it's falling apart in my fingers here? That's what you want. So I'll put this one behind me here. And what I'm going to get you started is in a mortar and pestle, which I know they use a lot of in Bali, a lot of spices there. Now, in that, I'm going to put about half a teaspoon of peppercorns, about half a teaspoon of ground clove, some coriander seed, about half a teaspoon of that as well. And I've got
this is looking good.
It is some palm sugar because they do love their sugar.
Yeah, they do love their sugar. Or you can do honey.
You could do some honey, but I'm not. I'm going to use sugar. I've got a garlic clove in there, and I've also got about a quarter of a cup of roasted peanuts. So if you grab that and start pounding away over there, Zoe, what I'll do is put this here. Once you've pounded that down a little bit, I want you to put that big chunk of beef in there and grind it down. This is what Uncle Bob used to get me to do. He'd get me to grind it down in the mortar and pestle.
All the dirty work, I like it.
Well, I bet you it was something about keeping me nice and quiet and busy and using up all that energy that a young lad has. Now, what I've got over here are some cloves of garlic, so I'll just crush these up just with a knife. And you can see when you crush them up like this, you get all this liquid. Now, a good tip, a lot of chefs will say put a little bit of salt on your board when you crush it, and that helps to pick up all the juices from the garlic.
Salt. Your fabulous meat loves salt, and salt loves meat salt.
We could do that as well, but what I'll do is I'll just chop it up a little bit. I don't like to put the salt on the board because I reckon it blunts the edge of my knife, but that's just me. Now, I've got 2 red chillies here. What I'm going to do is slice that away. How's that? That's coming up to a nice paste, isn't it?
And it smells really good. I mean, it's got the meatiness, obviously, but the spices... You know, they just permeate all through this meat. This is a great way to do this.
The meatiness, that's what I like to hear.
The
meatiness.
Adrian lingo.
Now, I've got some ginger here and I've sliced it nice and thin. And my Uncle Bob liked to leave the ginger nice and chunky like this. He reckons that, you know, you actually get the flavour of the ginger as you actually eat it and put it together.
It makes ginger, rather than just sort of an accompaniment, it makes it sort of an ingredient, like almost like a veggie in there.
I'll tell you another thing, he used to also call me Ginger as well. So there's another reason for you cutting it nice and thin. Now, I'll throw the chilli and the garlic straight in here, and I want that sizzle, I want that frying. My pan's preheated, so I wanted to get some sizzle going straight away. So I'll grab some of this sambal shrimp paste. You use the sambal olek, which was the chilli paste. I like to use the shrimp paste. I like a little bit of that seafood sort of flavour in there. Now, what I'm going to do is add a couple of tablespoons in here. This is going to be red hot, I can see it. Couple of tablespoons in there just to sort of fry off. And I can see why you'd use a wok, because a wok actually catches all the spushy bits from going all up the side there. So I'll fry that off for a second.
Technical terms.
The spushy bits. Now, what I do is I grab the beef out of here with a spoon and I put it straight into the pan. Now, while I'm doing this, Zoe, there's some spring onion in front of you, coriander. If you can chop it up nice and fine for me, well, I'll put all this in.
The whole thing, white and
throw the whole lot in, why not? I'll just throw this in. And what I want to do with this is just fry the beef off. Now, the beef, the top side in particular, is quite dry. There's not a lot of fat in there, so you need to add a lot of moisture. And that's where the sambal comes into.
Beautiful.
Now, I'm going to put a couple of drops of fish sauce in here. Watch out, fish sauce is very, very strong, so you want to make sure that you don't put too much in. Otherwise, it will definitely overpower that beefy flavour.
And you definitely don't need to add any more salt, because there's so much salt in Adrian's recipes already.
Did you say you wanted me to add some salt? Sure, I'll add a little bit of salt in there, and I'll even put some pepper in there.
I don't know why I bother saying these things.
Even more flavours. I thought you were reminding me. Now, this is something that I really, really like. It's really Indonesian sort of flavour. It's kecap manis, which is a sweet Indonesian soy. It's very, very soupy like this. Oh, lovely. It has got a bit of salt in it, hasn't it? I'll stir that in and I'll add the spring onions as well. And you can see it's coming together beautifully. What I want to do is heat that up and fry that off so I get all these flavours to come together. Look at that, beautiful. Coriander ready to go, fantastic. In it goes, and if you can pass me those bean shoots there, and the lettuce, about a quarter of a cup finely shredded, be perfect. You can see this is coming together now. What do you think of that?
The thing I like about Indonesian food is it's kind of the dishes you can have for breakfast, lunch or dinner. I mean, the nasi goreng I'm going to do later is very much more something you'd have at breakfast, but they would also eat it at these other meals exactly like this.
Now, you could actually have it for breakfast by throwing a couple of eggs in here, which would be perfect. There we go. That's about it there.
Good.
Now, I like adding a little bit of iceberg lettuce right at the end.
That's an interesting thing to add in and not necessarily an Indonesian ingredient, but I like it for something different.
I love it. Now, I'm just going to put this straight on here like this, and I'll get the rice on the other side, lime on there as well.
I'm going to cut these up ready to go.
Oh, fantastic. How's that? It's like a little stir-fry with the dried beef. I'm going to put some sesame seeds on top of that for some colour and some flavour and some deep-fried shallots. And the rice over here, cool. I'm just going to pop on the side here like that. Oh.
Wow.
Oh, look at that. Lovely flavour there. Fantastic, isn't it?
You know what? I really like the clove. It's quite strong and pungent. The spices are fantastic. Tad too salty for me, but I mean, that's kind of, a standard thing. But I like this.
I reckon my Uncle Bob would be very, very proud of me.
Yes, I think he might be as well.